All right, Steeler fans, time to talk about a lot of stuff pertaining to the black and gold. We have the latest news and notes. We have DEFCON levels being updated for the first time since training camp started. And of course, we have to dive into the mailbag segment. Let's start off with some news. I do want to bring this up, but I'm not going to dive deep into it. Aaron Rodgers, for a man who says, I don't like to be in the spotlight, I don't like attention. When I retire, I'm just going to go off and be on my own or be with my wife, and we're just going to live our lives separately. And we're just going to try to be like little hermits away from society. Well, he sure took advantage of his opportunity to speak at when he was on the Pat McAfee show. And he was very open about several topics, everything from Dr. Anthony Fauci being questioned and pleading the Fifth Amendment multiple times to the Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel situation. He let loose. He let loose. I'm just going to say that you're not going to hear me talk about those things here. I've said this all along, and when I started this Let's Ride podcast was in the midst of that craziness in 2020. And I always said, this show, this network, this podcast is going to be a respite from some of that craziness that we all experienced during that time. And I stand by that. This is a football show. I do want to acknowledge that Aaron Rodgers made those comments and the team has responded. And I know that, Pat McAfee. I was on the Pat McAfee show, but Pat Freiermuth spoke with Alan Saunders of Steelers Now and gave some really great quotes about how their player council that we talked about has said, everyone's entitled to their opinion and they can all have their opinions and yet still work for towards the same goal, which is to win a Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, music to my ears. I mean, how many times have you heard me say everyone should be entitled to their opinion, as they should? So you might disagree with Aaron Rodgers, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. But at the same time, you can still root for Aaron Rodgers. You can still hope he's a successful quarterback for the Steelers in his final year in the NFL. Switching things up, the Steelers did have to make a roster move. As I mentioned, this was on Tuesday. They swapped receivers. Cole Burgess, he injured his knee on practice. I think it was on Monday, first padded practice. And so he was waived injured, and the Steelers signed Jacoby Keeney James. Now, to give you a little bit of insight on him, he was originally signed with the Detroit Lions as an undrafted free agent following the 2025 NFL draft. Spent time with the Packers in 2025 on the practice squad. He was elevated to the active roster in week 18, started one game, had two catches for 15 yards. He also returned 2 kickoffs for 47 yards. Interesting that he plays special teams as well. I played for University of Massachusetts. All that fun stuff about college you can find at steelcurtainnetwork.com. So, yeah, the Steelers did have to make a roster move because of that injury to Cole Burgess. The last time we had a podcast, or I was in your ears if you're watching on YouTube, I had talked about the new signing, Rayshawn Jenkins, the safety, being added, but it wasn't made official just yet. And it was shortly after I recorded. It was that evening. I had to record early on Sunday for Monday's show based on the fact that my family had some stuff going on that I needed to tend to. And when I recorded, I was like, dang it, they made that official. But I didn't look at it. I think Dave Schofield put it in the Slack channel, and it just said official. I'm just like, oh, it's official. Let's move on with our lives. And it wasn't until later that evening that I was looking through the Slack channel, and I saw this breaking news. Wait a second, there's a core there. I thought to myself, this has to be a corresponding move. They were at 90 players. They're 90-man off-season, now training camp roster. They cut ties. They signed Rayshawn Jenkins. Who did they get rid of? So I look, and it says Darnell Savage was released. And I had to do a double take. And I even put it in the Slack channel communicating with our SCN crew. I said, oh my gosh, they released Darnell Savage. I mean, there's a lot of players that they could have cut ties with that you'd have said, oh, okay, they probably don't need that 10th receiver on the roster or the 11th receiver. You understand what I'm saying? It put a punctuation, a period at the end of the tenure of Darnell Savage that is just very, very odd. Darnell Savage, remember, he was the one who was reportedly going to be signing with the Steelers. I think it was maybe Bleacher Report who originally said, okay, I think this is going to happen, that Darnell Savage is going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so we write it at steelcurtainnetwork.com. We're not the only outlet out there that wrote that article, and we're waiting. He still hasn't signed yet. Here comes the NFL draft. Still hasn't signed. What the heck's going on? Well, then reports came out that Darnell Savage was banged up, had some type of injury. He wanted to get right before he signs. Fair. Eventually signed a 1-year deal, and he shows up. There's a lot of speculation about why it took him so long to sign, but why would he be the one that's released? Did he request his release? Something doesn't sit well with me with this situation, and we'll never know the answer unless there's someone that brings it to the public light. But very, very weird. The Darnell Savage situation in Pittsburgh. Man, just odd. We'll see if the new safety, Rashawn Jenkins, is able to be the type of player that they need. In the meantime, Robert Spears-Jennings continues to get a lot of runs. Sebastian Castro, they're doing whatever they can. I wouldn't be shocked if they look at other safeties as well. All right, so that's the latest news surrounding the Steelers, and we're going to dive into some of the news and some of the training camp reports here in the DEFCON levels. I know that a lot of you out there are probably looking forward to this. To get the DEFCON levels back, we do this weekly now moving forward. Where are we? So I waited until we got some pads on, had 2 padded practices, a week of non-padded practices. Where do we stand in terms of the ebbs and flows of these positions? Remember, DEFCON levels are a little bit different than what you might be used to. 5 is perfect. 5 means all is well, proceed with life normally. 1 is the worst. 1 in the terms of our defense systems here in the United States, 1 is war is imminent. You don't want that. So you don't want to be a 1 in any of these categories. But honestly, maybe this is me just being optimistic, and I am an optimistic guy. I feel like this team is trending in the right direction, and we'll see a lot coming up here with the Saturday night practice and then obviously the first preseason game next week. So let's talk about these position by position. Quarterback. I elevated quarterback from a 3 to a 4. And okay, so Jeff, what did you see to elevate it up to go up 1 to a 4? For me, I'm very impressed with what I've seen. This is on social media, mind you, but I'm also reading the reports of people that are there, talking to people that were there. And I know Brian Davis was at practice on Tuesday. I'll be anxious to talk to him on Thursday's Steelers preview about what he saw. But Drew Aller looks the part. I'm not saying he's ready to start a game right now, but he looks like, number one, that he's improving. His mechanics look better. And I'll be really excited to see what he can do in the preseason. Will Howard is looking okay as well. And of course, Mason Rudolph and Aaron Rodgers are there. I feel a lot better about the quarterback depth now than I did prior to training camp. So that's why I have it going up to a 4. Now, if they go and completely crap the bed in the preseason, that's going to change everything. But I'm going to say right now, after 2 padded practices, we're a 4. We'll touch on this again next week. Running back, 4. It stayed a 4. I love Rico Dowdle. I love Jalen Warren. Caleb Johnson's been getting some good pub. I've been hitting the holes hard. I know Coach Kevin Smith said he really liked what he saw from Caleb Johnson. Lou Nichols is turning heads, and he has special teams versatility. Not a lot of great stuff about Eli Heidenreich for those that are curious. And I could have put him in either one of these categories, but early reports are that he's not getting a lot of run with first, second, or even third team. He's out there when it's like the dregs of the roster. Now we go to wide receiver and tight end. I'm going to go with a 4. I do like what they've done with the wide receiver room and tight ends. I hate to say this, but I think Robert Tonyan might be working his way into a roster spot. I'm just being honest. Here. But you know what's weird? And I put this out on social media right before I went and hit record. I have not heard anything on Michael Pittman Jr. It's been the weirdest thing ever. I mean, you've heard reports about plenty about DK Metcalf. Roman Wilson is playing well. Jeremy Bernard's getting a lot of attention. I mean, you're hearing even about Caden Weegan making some plays at times. Max, oh my gosh, I think it's Hollerman? I forget his name. Hell, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Former Notre Dame product. I can tell you all that stuff about. I just can't remember his name. He's been getting a lot of publicity. I have not heard or seen one thing about Michael Pittman Jr. outside of here's a picture of Michael Pittman catching a ball in a basic warm-up drill. It's very weird. But I do like the receivers. Roman Wilson's look good. Jeremy Bernard, as advertised, it's a 4. It stays a 4. Offensive line, it's a 4, and it stays a 4. Mason McCormick getting rave reviews. Zach Frazier, ditto. Brock Hoffman had himself a hell of a Tuesday. Spencer Anderson's been getting a lot of run at right guard as well. I think the biggest surprise along the offensive line is that Maxi Honachor, first round pick out of Arizona State, has shocked people by how polished he is, even as a rookie who's been known, came into the league being drafted first round as not being polished. If anyone has been concerning along the offensive line, it's been Troy Fautanu. He's been charged with multiple false starts. He's gotten pulled out of the drills. He's gotten pulled out of the, whether it's 7-on-7, 11-on-11, whatever. He's gotten pulled out and replaced. I don't know if they're just trying to send a message like, hey, man, get your head together. But Fautanu has not had the best camps to date. So we're not docking the offensive line. I like what they're doing. I hope they keep it up. Let's go to defensive backs. It's a 3 and it stays a 3. I love what I've seen from Asante Samuel Jr. He's been one of the best players at camp. Dalen Everett's getting a lot of run, but when you're missing Jerry Porter Jr. and you're missing Jalen Ramsey, and we don't know when they're going to be off the PUP list, it's going to stay a 3. They come back, probably goes up to a 4, but that hasn't happened as of this being recorded. Inside linebacker, it's a 3 and it stays a 3. Found it very interesting that Coach Kevin Smith, when he was at camp, he said that Cole Holcomb and Patrick Queen were like the primary duo. Now, that can obviously change, but still, that's interesting to note that Peyton Wilson was a guy that came in certain situations. Could that be the answer? Haven't seen a lot of Malik Harrison so far, so that's why I'm just keeping it as a 3, not moving it up or down. Outside linebacker, I have it going up to a 4. I finally do feel that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a coach in Patrick Graham who is going to be able to make this thing work. You have Nick Herbig, who openly spoke. I know he spoke with Missy Matthews of Steelers.com after practice on Monday, and he talked about what it was like moving around the defense. He said, going to the inside, sometimes I have to communicate with the safeties and the defensive front. He's learning that position as well. Interesting stuff. I love what they're doing. It goes up to a 4 because if they can get those 3 guys on the field more often, I think that. And Jack Sawyer, again, I keep saying it. Don't sleep on Jack Sawyer. Do not sleep on Jack Sawyer. Let's go defensive line. So forward stays a 4. They've definitely been trying a lot of different combinations. I know Tuesday, Gabriel Rubio, 6th-round draft pick. He was the second-team nose tackle. Wyatt Black, first-team nose tackle. They didn't put Sebastian Joseph Day there at all. They're just trying some things out, but I'm not going to dock the defensive line or anything like that just yet. So forward stays a 4. Special teams. I almost moved it to a 5, but I need to see it in a game atmosphere before I do. But it's a 4. Chris Boswell is making 60-plus yarders like it's nothing. I think he's drilled every single one of his kicks. They say Cameron Johnson's booming punts. That's good news. I love to see it, love to hear it. Special teams return game. Well, Eli Heidenreich, they did a lot of kickoff stuff. He and Caden Weege, like the first duo to be out there for kickoff returns. They've been using Roman Wilson in punt return situations. They're trying people out, so we shall see. All right, and the last one, the fan DEFCON, it was a 2. I think it goes up to a 3. I think fans are excited. I think fans like what they're seeing. I think fans are starting to kind of believe in the process a little bit. I do. All right, let's turn the page and let's go to the mailbag segment to finish up the show. It was my fault. I had the tweet in my drafts, and I just forgot to send it out until midday. A lot of people might be looking for it in the morning. That's on me. It's my fault. I apologize. I'll be better next time. If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT on Twitter. I put that out every Tuesday. Let's go to James. He said, hey, Jeff, I know it's very, very early still, but I can't help but notice little to no mention of Pittman. Have you heard or read anything different? And then he uses the hashtag Ride or Die Crew. I just talked about James. I have not heard anything about him. I don't think it's bad. I don't think he's hurt. It's not that he's sitting out of practices. It's just weird. That's all I'm going to say. Let's go to Nathan Van Slyke. Hey, Jeff, I'm heading down to Latrobe after work this Thursday. I've been seeing rain in the forecast for Friday and Saturday. All I ask is, can you say a prayer that the rain passes over Latrobe for those 2 days? It's too early for that, man. Not for the prayer, but for the rain forecast. You might find, especially if you're using like the weather app on your phone, you might find that it'll supposed to rain in the morning, and that's a Saturday, and then it's going to be fine for the evening practice. Wait till you get a little bit closer, but I have fingers crossed for your sake. Let's go to Ed Holinsky. Who's been tearing it up in Steelers camp so far and who needs to be? I will say that the one player, there's two players on offense that stick out when I think about it. Who's been getting the most positive reviews? One is Maxi Honachor. Everything you hear is his footwork is outstanding. He's standing up. He's going to lose some of those one-on-ones against TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. They're really good at what they do. But he's doing the job. He's doing the thing. So Maxi Honachor is one. Roman Wilson is the other. Now, defense, the players that I keep hearing about and reading about, Dalen Everett and Asante Samuel Jr., both cornerbacks that are getting a lot of run because of the issues with the pup list with Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Ramsey. And Brandon Eccles, throw his name in the mix as well. He had a great day on Tuesday. So you've been hearing a lot about those guys. That's good. That's good news. And I do have to throw in that there was a play on Tuesday. They did some goal line type drill work, and then they were doing some defensive, offensive line stuff, and Brock Hartman was just dominating. He was dominating fools. And then I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Domate Pecco, the defensive line coach, said, "Hey, Cam, can you go in there against Brock Hartman?" And Cam basically tossed Brock Hartman to the ground with one hand. He just stiff-armed him straight to the ground, kind of stood over him, had a little smirk on his face. Old man strength is a real thing for those that don't know. All right, let's finish this up with Steeler Fan 69. Hello, my friend. What's ET short for? Because he's got little legs. A hacker got into my bank account and left me a note. He said, "Please save more money. This was a complete waste of my time." And then lastly, a three-legged dog walks into a bar and says, "I'm looking for the man that shot my paw." I love it. I want to remind everyone about the practice schedule coming up. So they're off today on Wednesday. There is no practice today. Thursday and Friday is 11 o'clock starts. Saturday is at 6 p.m. Sunday, they are off. I will be back tomorrow on the Pittsburgh Standard Time podcast with Greg Benevent. And I do want to say that a big shout out to Meinl Schmidt Distillery, who continues to sponsor us. Go check them out. Use the code KICKOFF2026 to save yourself 10% at meinldistillery.com. Check them out. And I do want to apologize that we had an issue with the app. Computers talking to one another doesn't always go the best. I think we have it fixed. If you were looking at the app saying, "Why am I seeing these old articles?" It's our fault. I found it early in the morning. Got it. We're working on it. Take some time for Apple and Google Play to update things. But the app, go get it. Steel Curtain Network. Check it out. But y'all, I'll also be back on Friday with Coach Kevin Smith on the Coach's Corner. But you know he finished it up. Be safe. Be kind and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.